All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we got a great interview here in Chicago, Illinois. We go talking to our brother Tyrone Muhammad. Tyrone,
Yes,
thank you for joining us on the show today.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, my brother Phillip.
All right, Tyrone. Now, many people know who you are. You've been all over the media in different parts of the world, but there are some people that don't know who you are. Share people just a little bit about your story.
Well, look, my name is Tyrone Muhammad. I'm the executive director for ECCSC, that's Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change. Born and raised in Chicago, Inglewood, and man, all my life. And really, I just recently, over the last 5 years, returned back to society from serving a 21-year prison sentence. And while sitting in prison, I grew tired of watching the recidivism rate, just in and out of young brothers coming back and forth while I was serving my time. And from there I said, you know what, it's clear to me that society don't have an answer for reformation and reentry. So that's where I started and founded Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change. And I wanted it to be an offense and to agitate the powers that be to say, hey, ex-cons have a voice. We are also the individuals who everybody use as a tool for reentry, violence prevention, mental health service, housing. Everyone gets paid off the returning citizen's body, but the returning citizen never controls his own destiny. So ex-cons also is a double entendre that represents unknown. So we got a bunch of unknown and untapped potential languishing in prisons and graveyards and on these communities in every city, in corners in every cities of America. Hence, Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change, and we wanted to be the change we want to see because we understood that pastors and politicians wasn't gonna fix our issues, that it was gonna take us to save us, which is our motto.
So why do you think the recidivism rate is so high here in Chicago?
Well, you just think about it. 18 to 24 years old, over 70% unemployment rate. The extraordinary disinvestment in the communities, and then the gang, drugs, and violence issue. When you deal with the 1994 Clinton crime bill that ushered in mass incarceration, and Joe Biden was a part of that. And then you talk about the 80s war on drugs. And then you talk about all the issues and ills that is used black men in our bodies as tool for the private prison industry as well as the prison industrial complex of America, right? And so now you have no true reformation, you have no true reentry policy that restore these guys to useful citizenship. You often release them back into society worse off than when they went in prison. So that's one reason we have no resources, or we have no mental health treatment, and prisons have become the mental health treatment centers.
So it's kind of remind me of what Biden said back in 1993 at the time, where he said that, they may have issues and they need treatment possibly, but they need to do it in jail.
Wow. So what I often remind people that have prejudice and judgment about prisoners and prison. Society created prisoners. Prisoners then create society. So the issues and ills started before they ever went to prison. So now you have these affected men in prison, languishing in prison without any real substantive treatment. And then now we release these men and women back into society, into the communities they was released from that's already poverty-stricken, violence-ridden, back into them communities with no housing, no opportunity. So when you say what's the deal with recidivism, I haven't given these individuals nothing to do. I haven't made them accountable while they were sitting in prison, because in prison the only thing you have to do is serve your time. There's no true reformation. I can sit in a cell and do nothing. And then remember, in prison are the worst of all people, types of people in society. So now I get to learn a little something from all the worst of everybody in society with no checks and balances. There's no incentive for me to do better and be better in prison, because there's no hope. We release them back without any real transformative measures. Like, for instance, all we're required to do is time. But if society or the politician made it a part of your sentence that you must transform yourself, you must renew your thinking, there has to be programs. They've taken Pell Grants out of prison, so college is not even accessible in prison no more. Like it was when I was there, I gained 2 associate degrees while sitting in prison. That is not the case today. They've taken Pell Grants out of colleges, so education is not a real idea in prison either, even though education has been proven to reduce recidivism.
And when we was watching the press conference y'all done about the illegal immigrants being put in our community,
yes,
and you made, and I think the sister or even you talked about in Chicago, like 74% of the homeless are Black Americans.
Yeah, so
and you mentioned about what, 20,000 or so?
18,000 or more formerly incarcerated persons.
Yeah, could you expand on that?
Yeah, well, most of us, it's like in Chicago, state of Illinois, 30,000 people are released from prison. So for me, I spent 21 years in prison. So 2 decades. That means your family has moved on sometime. The communities have been gentrified. They don't look the same. The people you grew up with are no longer in those neighborhoods or communities, or they've died or moved on. Your family members have moved on to other places. And now the halfway houses are few and far between. And a lot of guys are released to temporary housings only to be kicked out the homes of their families as well as these halfway houses. So you got over 20,000 and 18,000 to 20,000 people that's homeless, living from place to place, shelter to shelter, woman to woman, location to location. They have no housing, and that's the oxymoronic nature and hypocritical nature of it all, is that you can house me with taxpayer money for 21 years. That means food, feed me every day, clothe me every day, and keep a roof over my house every day, as long as I'm serving time. But even with the 3 years that I'm out on parole, the state isn't required to put me up for 3 years to make sure I can properly amalgamate back into society safely.
Mm-hmm. But then that same people, right, you mentioned about homeless and different issues of Black Americans you have right here in this city.
That's right.
And then Brandon Johnson and the Democrat Party, which I say the Democrat Party because this has been their particular sanctuary cities, all that. So all these issues dealing with Black people, like, they suffering in the neighborhoods, crime, there's different things they're suffering. Expound to me how y'all feel about them just bringing everybody, then taking resources and from schools that was closed by Rahm Emanuel, schools are closed, and putting them there. Like, how do y'all feel about
the hypocrisy of it all? And I can't understand for the life of me. I do understand, because there's a social conditioning that Black people have been on forever to vote for this particular party that delivers and gives them nothing, right? And we've asked for the South Shore School that was also being used as a place to train police with the dissent decree on how to be better officers, right? And then we were supposed to be allowed to use those schools to do real, like I always say, behavior modification of at-risk youth and young men who will commit crime or then fall by the wayside. They said that we can use those schools alongside the police, because you have pools in some of them, you have basketball courts, and you have auditoriums in these schools that we can now educate, entertain our young people, and give them opportunity for self-expression. We wasn't allowed to use them. But then here we go. We talking 51 million, really like 76 million, because I think it was 25 spent before then, and the 51 is just the additional ask. To house migrants, non-citizens, while our community suffers. And often you're putting these migrants in the worst communities that's already disinvested, right? And these cities and communities are ran by Democrats. You can't continue to blame the Republican Party, because they often do this, right? The Republicans sending them, the Republicans sending them. If I was the man in Texas, I'd send 20,000 a day. Because if you're saying to me that I can't protect the borders and that anyone should be allowed to cross these borders, and we have to bear the brunt of all of this, I understand both sides. I understand sanctuary cities. But not before you deal with the issues and ills that have affected black people in America for generations, for centuries. And this hypocritical notion at best to say you're going to take care of non-citizens before you take care of citizens. That's my issue with it all.
And you mentioned a figure of $76 million. What do you think that money could do in the black community?
$76 million. Let's take two communities, some of the most crime-ridden communities. One thing I would love to do is create viable training programs for young men and boys, right? So when I go downtown and I look at the $56-70 billion worth of development going on downtown, those sites, those construction sites, they don't have 3% black men on those. Latinos and white men are building those sites. And then when we come in our communities, we allow white men and Latinos to build in our communities, while black men are languishing in prisons and graveyards. And that's because we have no viable skills. You close down all the vocational schools. I went to CVS, Chicago Vocational Schools, and where I took up aviation power plant, right? So you have none of that going on right now. I think Dunbar is not the same. And they've taken all the vocational courses. And so there's other groups of people who've taken over the training aspect of their children while leaving our children the language. And like I say, graveyards and prisons is our only lot, it seems like, in this city.
And the Democrat Party, they just feel they expect our votes, and then they say, well, we're not like the Republicans, right? This is what they always say. We're not like the Republicans, but are you really not like the Republicans?
Well, think about this. You're worse than the Republicans.
Yeah.
Republicans not claiming to serve us. Mm-hmm. The Republicans not sitting around saying they're going to help black people in these communities better themselves. They're not necessarily saying that. We're saying that. We're saying there's something for everybody, but we don't have nothing for nobody, right? Mm-hmm. It's something for nobody that's in America or nobody that's saying today that in these communities that's having poverty issues and mental health issues. So when in the state of Illinois, it's a Republican state, a Democratic state, you think about it from every level, from the lieutenant governor, that's a black woman, all the way down to the county board president, all the way down to all the black commissioners, all the way down to the mayor is black, the police chief is black, tens of state reps, that's black, over 150 black elected positions in this city. And you talking Democrat, I'm talking black. You see, if you're looking at the party as a whole, we failed our community. But the onus and the disrespect to me is that we have allowed black elected officials to go to Springfield, to go to these elected houses and committees to represent us with no accountability. We ought to be ashamed of ourselves to allow our black people, those ones we send in these offices, to languish in our communities without being at their doorsteps every day, to hold them accountable for the disinvestment. I don't fault J.B. Pritzker. Lori Lightfoot allowed these, even from Brandon Johnson's situation. He just took on the rims of something that was the ills of something that was already there. Lori Lightfoot allowed these people to come in here that way and put them in these schools without our permission, without our advice, or without our support. So with that being said, our black elected officials are the problem in this city.
This is all over America, because this is two things I've noticed of black politicians. They are black faces representing white supremacy and white interest.
That's right.
And if they're not going to do that, then you're not going to really see them long.
Right.
And number two, if you're a black politician, two things you can't do: punish white people, help black people.
That's interesting. But it's unacceptable. No, that's real. That's what's happening. It's unacceptable for me. Like I said, and I'm going to keep saying it, for the only lot for black men and boys is graveyards and prisons. I'm going to keep printing that. I'm going to keep pushing that we have to eliminate mass incarceration and we have to reduce violence in the city. But violence needs a job. You have to train them in skills and replace the negative behavior with some positive. That's what's happened to me, whether we like it or not. I heard the Minister Farrakhan, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, speak one time, and I changed my life. I knew I could no longer kill my brothers and sisters. I knew I could no longer sell cocaine and heroin and pump dope into my communities like that. I knew that was a no-no. But it takes guidance and understanding. But oftentimes, how would the people know unless they had a teacher? And how would they have a teacher unless one is sent, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to be intentional. And then we got to approach the people in their language and their paradigm and where they at in order to tap into their social, emotional, and all these things that everybody has used as a tool to get funding for to fix our issue. Our issues are only going to be fixed by us. No one else, no white groups and organizations that receives all of the wealth, all of our tax dollars in the name of solving issues of black people. We can no longer allow them to do that. We have to be foremost and upfront about dealing with the behaviors of our sons and our daughters, our nephews, our cousins, and the women, your boyfriends, and everybody else that you allow to live in your house. Because these guns that these young boys have, they are being stored somewhere. They're being stored in the house of women and mothers, grandmothers. Mm-hmm. You have to be intentional, sisters. When the sisters are intentional about that stuff, it won't happen. They can help reduce it instantly, because now you're not allowing this young man to bring guns and weapons in your home to kill another woman's child. Right. And that's a serious issue.
So everything you're telling me just makes more sense of what we talk about constantly about the need of lineage-based reparations in the form of cash payments. That's the only thing that's going to solve the problem.
Absolutely.
Because when you get cash, an injection of wealth into communities, you could start businesses.
Yep.
You can get the training that you need. You can get the young men off the streets.
Yes.
So that's why we talk about reparations all the time.
But I don't like the reparation as a notion of payment, right? I mean, people always say, well, just get the money, do what you want. No, you don't get the money and give it back to them. It makes no sense. We're so ignorant. We're so fashion oriented, and all the clothing lines are owned by white men or women. Mm-hmm. We can't do that. We have to first, part of the reparations would be that you will have to do economic education before you can ever get reparations. Your household has to understand economics and how it works. Stock, bond, mutual fund, CD, money market, Roth IRA accounts. You need to know something about how money moves, how the dollar sits in our community versus other communities, right? You have to have education before you can even get reparations. That should be a part of reparation, that we educate ourselves economically first. And I keep saying, people, educate. I mean, reparation. For what? So I can go give the money right back to Rolls Royce, Bentley, so I can give it back to Louis.
Let me tell you about that. I've heard that argument.
Yeah.
And you will have people that go do that. You look at the reparations they gave the Japanese for the internment camp, right? No one with the Japanese community said, hey, we need education, hey, they will get the money back. Some probably did, right?
Yes.
But not everyone will.
But no one has ever been culturally violated, dominated, morals, folkway, values, norm. You said what you just said, the Japanese. Mm-hmm. What's our culture? Yeah, what's our language?
Black America.
We don't even know. Because I call brother, what's up, black man? I ain't no black man, I'm African. What's up, African American? I ain't no African American, I'm a. See, until you educate us, we figure out a consensus group to talk about who we are in this country, for one. Mm-hmm. And you can go Chinese American, Japanese American. I ain't never been to Africa. This has been our land. We built this. We have as much right to this country as anyone else. And we should stand on that. So who are we? What are we? And how do we determine our value, our culture, our folkways, mores, and norms? We have none. That's why every week we trending with something different and new. Now it's the chair. I'm seeing people wearing the daggone chair around their neck. Yeah. I see people wearing anything we do. We are so our character, our personality, and who we are as a people. We create so many influences. Then we are so influenced by the most negative things in the world. The positive things, when I go viral for showing the brother who got shot, this, then I won't go viral for shedding the construction site. I'm saying, hey, you need to hire black people. You're hiring young men, you're going to train them. I won't go viral for standing up. I go viral for throwing a brick through a window at a nail salon. But I didn't go viral going there 3 times before that telling him, hey, you can't keep disrespecting black women. Black women, please stop supporting groups and people that don't support and respect you. So once again, the dollar that we receive, you giving it right back to the enemy who don't even value you and respect you. So we have to be educated, bro, because we are the most affected by slavery, the transatlantic slavery. And it's still going on because we're so bombarded by all type of media, social media, music, magazines. We have to find out who we are first. That's why you have a Noble Drew Ali, Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's why you had a Marcus Garvey. That's why you had these individuals to try to help us, W.E.B. Du Bois, Booker T. Washington, conflict, to try to determine who and what we are. So education.
So your position is financial education,
yes,
but you support cash payment reparations.
Absolutely.
Okay,
but
I just want to make sure I say that.
Like for anything, I'm not gonna. So we have a thing called subsidized housing in Chicago, where it allows you to move in the neighborhoods of affluent people in the high rises. You may have people who came from the project.
Right.
That's the old saying: you can take the person out the project, but you can't take it out of him. So you have people that go in these communities and location, and they act as though they own the block. But here's $1 million home you live next to. There's these people paying $500,000 for their condo, but you getting it as subsidized rent and rate. But then that should be an educational process that teach you how to coexist, that deal with the ethical standards that you have, the moral implication, the aesthetics of what this looks like, what that isn't. We still have to evolve as a people. If we're Africans, we wasn't around with bones and acting like clowns. Everybody based on this stereotype. You have to teach our people character, how to have discipline. What disrespect look like? I can't smoke weed next to your balcony. I can't do certain things to you. I can't have my dogs. I can't have my homies all swimming in a pool from Inglewood when I'm down here in this location. You gotta teach people how to have a better life. We gotta teach them quality of care and behavior. And we can't get around that because we can't coexist if I'm picking up my dog mess and you leaving your dog mess on the ground. That's not right. That's not fair to me or the people living in this complex or the block.
Right. But I will say this. There are people right here in the city of Chicago. Look at a lot of these small business owners who are black, right? If they were to have that kind of injection of capital, I always tell people, small business, black small business, if they're allowed to grow, they can do what? Hire people in the neighborhood. See, the black businesses can help with this unemployment situation, but the biggest thing that black businesses don't get is capital.
So we have enough black millionaires.
But see, that's my problem right there.
I hold them accountable more than I hold these white establishments that comes in our community and exploit us for our capital and our ignorance, right? They are not raising up the community on par as they're asking to be funded and taken care of. That's everything you just said they would do.
I'm with you.
They don't often do it.
I'm with you. And I've been down that road, but you know why I kind of threw that mindset away? It's because you can't force people to do it unless they have a community mindset. So I think just my opinion.
Well, you can't force me to patronize you since you don't have a community mindset. See, you can have it both ways, right?
Yeah.
Are we gonna be black and we're gonna be totally black? We're gonna be African or we not? It's like you can't say you're gonna take some of the values of not being, there's no compulsion in this, but then I expect you to do this. That should be a compulsion and you supporting black business. That should be a compulsion and you funding black businesses. And that should be a compulsion of black businesses being used as a tool of elevation and moral standards of how you now build everything around that black stone. It can't have it both ways. I'm going to challenge them every time to say, okay, if you don't feel you need to take in a shorty that's around here conducting himself in an improper manner, then you should also feel that I shouldn't have to come here and patronize you. I should also go and patronize someone else. And that should be okay too. Don't say nothing about me not supporting black businesses if you're not going to hold the same standard of onus on black businesses to be just as intentional about who else they raise up as they're raised up. Now we got black businesses dominating everything because we each one teach one, each one help one. And that's have always been my whole issue, even with our brother Willie, Dr. Willie Wilson, in the way that he was giving out money, giving fish instead of teaching people how to fish. I would have never gave Arabs an influx of 5 to 10 million for gas without opening up.
Why would he do that?
Because that's his way. It is often, I can't judge his way, but I can have an opinion about his way.
Right.
I can say economically that's not sound.
Economically, what Arabs have came injected 5 to 10 million?
None.
Okay, I just want to know that.
You get my point.
Okay.
I'm saying that it's a bunch of open, vacant gas stations open, so that if Dr. Willie Wilson owned the gas station as a black man, guess where I'm going out of my way to go to? Dr. Wilson gas station. But we, instead of him taking 5 to 10 million and opening 4 or 5 gas stations, we gave gas away that goes up in the air in smoke. So $5 million was influxed into the Arab community.
Yep.
That not even 10% of that came back into our community. Yet the gas, once it's over with, once you ride the gas out, it goes in the atmosphere and you need gas again. But now imagine if we owned, or what if he took that 5 million and said, come on to my gas station and I'll give you free gas. But he owns the gas, he owned the gas station. It's still now I'm creating a culture to support a black gas station, a black business, because he serves us. It's just, it's like a no-brainer. But I can't tell a man what to do with his money, right? Just like the whole reparation issue. You can't tell me how to spend my money if it's my money. You're right. Because I'm going to be somewhere trying to create a business to take some of that money back that you're going to give to someone else. And that's your point, that there will be black businesses that's created as a result of that.
Yeah.
But not enough. You have more rampant ignorance than you have education.
You know what? I'm going to challenge you on something about that.
Please.
Yes, you do have that, and I agree. But from my experience with just black people,
Yes, sir.
you have more black people who are not that way than those who are that way. Those who are that way, from what I've seen in my lifetime, is a small section of our community. Because we have, 40+ million black people.
Yep.
The majority of us aren't like that way. So since I know we aren't that way, and a lot of those people who are that way because of, like I say, economic conditions, oppression, the police being militarized in the area. So that's created by white supremacy, actually. But the majority of black folk that I know, like you got a sister that got a salon, right?
Yep.
She may need, if you give that sister $100,000, she's not going to trick it off. She's going to take that $100,000 and expand that salon, hire people, or maybe a brother's a barber, or somebody got a restaurant, or somebody got a tax service, or somebody who's a general contractor. My mindset is on those black people that say, man, if I had that extra $100,000, if I had the extra $200,000,
No, they should get it.
I'm going to hire these people and
No
do
doubt.
this in my community because I care about my community. Because statistically, black people hire, you're talking about ex-cons, black people hire people that come out of prison at higher rates than white people do. So that means we do need more black people, all the people that's established. We need those to get money so they can grow, so they can hire our people. I'm with you on the black businesses. I'm
going to challenge you on this. We got $3 trillion influx of money or more, probably 4 now, coming to our communities. I'm of the mindset that I don't know what we would be in standing in terms of if we came together with our resources in terms of country, what we would be in and fit in that. Probably a top 10 country, for sure. I'm imagining. I I know what we do with the revenue. I have statistical data and analysis. I have real metrics that shows what we do with our money now.
I'm with you.
So even with those businesses, I still think that we are focused, and that's where the education come in with, and that's because all of us are not rooted in passing something on. For instance, in my mind, no matter how much money you have, you can't take it to the graveyard with you.
Right.
No matter what's your credit score, you can't take it to the graveyard with you.
Right.
No matter all the material possessions that we acquire, we can't take it to the graveyard with us. Yet we are in constant pursuit of those things. So my education, the educational level that I want our people to be on, is to understand the value of nation building and what that represents. We are not there yet. We are not there because we're still able to pit this group against this group, this intellectuals, and like I often tell my Greek and sorority and fraternity brothers, the oxymoronic nature of calling yourself a Greek and you're African. These people, to me,
they're the boule. If you know about the boule, you know they're a problem.
So I will be seen as the person that's the fool, that's the idiot. That's because I served 21 years, but really I had the best education in the world. I don't know no one who stay in school 21 years as a doctor, a lawyer, anybody. So I use my time wisely to get my mindset focused on the mission I had to do once I was released, because people often wonder, how you get into this? Because I was already in school preparing to sit in front of Phillip, to talk about this and the stuff that I do to just jump out of a vacuum. Right. I had to prepare myself that death to me wasn't as important as the resurrection of our community and the mindset. And people may not like my method or my way, but then I often tell people, I've never seen a man more dedicated to peace and love and unifying the people than Dr. King, and he dead.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even matter about your way, because Malcolm had the opposite way, and he's dead. And we did not follow them. We did not protect them. Whether we talking Medgar Evers, whether we talking Fred Hampton, we let the police go in and murdered him openly. And we didn't tear this country up. So many countless of lives that's lost, from George Floyd to all of these issues and ills, man. We are looking for martyrs to save us, instead of standing forth as martyrs of our own individual home, space, community. The police have never protected and saved us. Never. I've never been in a time where the police responded to any issues or ills.
But the police wasn't created to protect
exactly.
people. So that's why.
So you get the Black Panther Party. You get these defense deacons of defense. You get all these groups, the FOI. You get these groups that come along that say we have to maintain and protect our own women and our children. More of that is being lost. So I already understand. I come from that generation of men and guidance that says, you know, it's going to take us to save us. And I'm not looking outside of ourselves, just like with the reparations. We have enough billionaires and millionaires that from block to block, to corner, as Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan always say, that if we didn't have money, why do foreigners come to our communities and set up businesses?
Sure said that.
So stop lying. These companies, I've watched it, and I'm going to say it live and publicly right now. I've watched or saw young men rob grandmama, auntie, their mothers, coming out of currency change, coming out of stores, coming out of their homes, their cars. And I'm not promoting anything, but I want to tell you an observation. I've never seen a Brinks truck pull up to a liquor store. I've never seen a Brinks truck pull up to Baba's, a grocery store, the gas station. I've never seen a Brinks truck pull up to any of these stores, Dunkin' Donuts, any of these stores in the Subway in our community. I never saw a Brinks truck pull up to collect their money. Yet they walk out of our community with $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a day from each one of these businesses. And we don't do nothing about it. I'm not promoting robbery, but I'm telling you, I'm showing you the mindset, the ignorance of us, that we would spend time robbing our women and children, killing our, and we would let everybody else walk through our community without even paying a tariff, without even putting community benefit agreements in to that store or anything. That talks about the education and the mindset. That's a level of fear and inferiority complex that allows you to think, that don't make you see that robbing grandmama is a no-no, but the exploiters, yes, you're going to exploit our community, then this is the cost you may pay for not having our protection and our security for coming in our communities. If we allow you to come here, you better be able to be grateful and benefit from, you're benefiting from that thing that is our revenue that you send back to enrich your family and your community. They build communities. You go to India, they got communities in Chicago or in Illinois. You go to the Arab community, they got communities that's used from the wealth of our community. Our community built those communities. You go to Chinatown, you go anywhere, our community built those communities. Yet they give nothing back, nor do they respect our dollar or they respect us as people.
Well, I mean, and also, they don't have to check in.
They don't have to check in.
See, if a black person come around,
I gotta check in.
You gotta check in. Who you know out here, whatever, it's gonna be a problem.
See?
But them people don't know nobody. They check in with nobody, and you have no problem shopping. They'll tell you, they'll go upside your head in them stores if they got to, and nobody do nothing. Nobody ready to ride down on anything. But so, like you said, as a black person, you ready to take their head.
I'm gonna kill you for coming from where you from?
Houston.
I'm gonna kill you from coming from Houston. You didn't check in with me. Man, people come in our neighborhood every day, and when they get through making money off of you, they send the next group of persons to take that store over. They don't sell it to you. They don't fear you enough to even partner with you. So this coming today to me, man, and I like to talk these issues, and that's that thing we was talking about off the camera that talks about when you say this or say that, when you get to this point, that's when they watch you. Mm-hmm. When you get to talking about how you overthrow something or how you build or how you take back the power in your communities that's not rooted in pastors and politicians, because I'll call them PPs. Pastors, politicians, they're PPs. And police, PPs. They pee on our head and tell us it's raining. They constantly pissing on us. Mm-hmm. And we allow them to piss on us and piss on us. And we continue to even vote for that party that continue to piss on us. And yet we have no response but to continue to vote for the party that piss on us. It is no wonder that in the scriptures that God say the elderly or the old will wander in the wilderness and die off, and the children will inherit the land. That's what's happening. These kids are saying, hey, you've created the disinvestment. You've left nothing for me. So why shouldn't I commit home invasion on you? Why shouldn't I rob you? Why shouldn't I carjack you? You don't even buy me a bike. You got businesses in our community that don't invest even in the kids, man. We got churches in our community, 1,000 in a mile, that use 501c3 and political dollars as a tool to justify oppressing the people in the community.
Right.
These pastors and politicians that say separation of church and state, yet they have souls to the polls.
Yep.
So the politicians and the pastors, PPs, are one and the same. They're constantly pissing on us, man. And so when Tyrone Muhammad stand up and say, thus said the Lord, we ain't doing this no more. I'm seeing this radical, I'm seeing it this, I'm seeing this that. But I'm not going to stop because I have a mission and I have a goal and I have a job to do to get our people to educate themselves to see that these are your oppressors. Stop looking at white folks. the white supremacy, we could say that we know about that system, we said that. But then you just picked it up just because we don't create guns. We don't create extended clips, SIGs, Glocks, and all those assault rifles. We don't create bullets. We don't create heroin and cocaine. Yet we are affected by all of that. Same with our elders and our intelligentsia of our communities. Yeah, we know about the system, but that don't mean you have to play in it. That don't mean you have to be the one to pick it up and use it as a tool to better yourself and further your career at the oppression of us.
Right.
So we got to hold them accountable, bro.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And with that said, tell people how they can get in contact with you, because they may have some questions about what you said, and I want them to talk to you about it.
I wish they would. I wish
so
they
let
would.
people know how to get in contact with you.
Well, my name is, as I said, Tyrone Muhammad. I'm the executive director for Ex-Cons for Community and Social Change. You can find us on ECCSC.org. That's ECCSC.org. TyroneMuhammad.com. Facebook, Twitter, Tyrone Muhammad. Instagram, Tyrone Muhammad. Also, TyroneMuhammadForSenator.com. 2026. Tyrone Muhammad, U.S. Senator, 2026.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check out all those links. Brother Tyrone Muhammad here, and it was a great conversation with Tyrone. Thank you for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it.
No doubt. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.